Minnesota swung for the fences this offseason by trading for Rudy Gobert. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to revisit that trade and talk about how bad it's been, because I think that's all it's been pretty much. The Wolves got Rudy Gobert, and the Jazz got Malik Beasley, Pat Bev, Walker Kessler, Leandro Bolmero, Jared Vanderbilt, and 4 first-round picks along with a pick swap. So looking at this trade right now, can it age and potentially be one of the worst trades in the last decade?
All right. I don't know if you have a similar opinion on this one, but the immediate trade that comes to mind is that Celtics Nets trade. I just don't know how a trade could possibly top.
That shit aged beautifully for the Celtics.
Jettas just got rocked, bro. Holy shit.
It's the second time of 2. But let's just look at what the Celtics were able to acquire. So of irrelevantness in the situation, Keith Bogans, Marshawn Brooks, Chris Humphries, Chris Joseph, Gerald Wallace. That's irrelevant. They got a 2014 first-round pick, which was James Young. Obviously, not anything to hoot and holler about. 2016 first, Jaylen Brown. 2017 first, Jason Tatum. And the 2018 first-round pick they used to trade for Kyrie Irving, which essentially
it was cool.
It didn't work out.
But that didn't work
the
out.
Core, the cream of the crop were drafted
Jays.
with these picks that they selected
Losers.
from the Nets. I just don't see, unless it's going to have to be in years to come, we find out if this trade is worse. But right now, I don't see how it's this bad, because the whole point for the
What about the
Nets
PG trade?
we'll
If
see.
They don't win a chip.
We'll see.
Yeah,
that's
but we
up
have
for
to see.
sure.
We have to see how they draft, because the Celtics hit
a home
home
run.
runs on
Yeah.
drafts.
I didn't even think if the Clippers don't win a chip.
But another reason why it's so bad is that the Nets made this move to get over the Heat hump.
That's exactly,
right?
yeah.
So that next year they reached the conference finals in the second round. The Celtics weren't good. They didn't make the playoffs.
even if the Nets
smart
win a
here.
chip, it's still win-win both sides.
In 2014, 2015, the Nets went to the first round of the conference finals, were eliminated. The Celtics also made it to the first round of the conference finals. Actually had a better regular season record than the Nets just a year after making that trade. 15-16, Nets didn't make the playoffs. 16-17, Nets didn't make the playoffs. 17-18, didn't make the playoffs. 18-19, made it to the first round of the Eastern Conference. But the Celtics were first round exits in 15-16, conference finals in 16-17, conference finals in 17-18, second round of the Eastern Conference in 18-19. I just feel like it'll be extremely hard for this Gobert trade to be this bad, but we have years to find out if it's going to be at this level.
Well, I think looking at both trades, there was one guy at the head of the table making it. It's Danny Ainge.
He's a genius.
Danny Ainge made that trade to get Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, get all those picks and all those assets for an aging star. And now he's doing the same when he's been in Utah. He traded Donovan Mitchell already. He traded Rudy Gobert. He said, we're going to start fresh. We're going to start new. And Utah, right now, they're playing with a lot of life. This team reminds me a lot of the 14-15 Boston Celtics, where a lot of players are better than we expected. Lauri Markkanen is better than we expected.
Absolutely.
Jared Vanderbilt, he's always been this good, but I think now people are starting to realize that, Jared Vanderbilt is one of those winning players. You put him on a team, and the team just becomes better by default because of the effort he brings on a nightly basis. Jordan Clarkson's having the best season of his career. Looking at this trade, it's going to age terribly for Minnesota.
I don't disagree.
Because we're going to get into it deeper on next segment, but the Timberwolves right now have 2 of the worst contracts in the NBA. They have Rudy Gobert's contract.
You're going to throw Cat into that?
And they have Cat's contract.
That's so rude.
Cat is going to be getting paid $60 million in a couple seasons, and he's not that level of a player.
Interesting.
So now that you have 2 of the worst contracts in the NBA that are pretty much untradeable.
How do you feel about that?
What do you mean?
Karl Anthony Towns.
You know how I feel about Karl Anthony Towns, so
It's going to
I'm
be.
shocked to hear you say
I
that.
agree with everything he's saying. 'Cause
Well,
I'm shocked to hear you
I
say
think
that.
Zach LaVine's contract's horrible. I think players that
weird.
I think
Why
players.
why'd you just do that to him?
Because I think players that are not superstar level players that get paid like supermax players or max players are not worthy of the contract. There's a big that's a big reason why I'm
Weren't
not
you
a big
giving
fan
Karl
of
Anthony
Bradley
Towns-
Beal
not
getting
what
that
you
deal.
said
I
before
thought
about
I was gonna say
Cat.
I thought you were giving Karl Anthony Towns nothing but his flowers this offseason.
I can also acknowledge that the contract's not a great contract.
That's not this flute you was blowing before, but
No,
whatever.
Cat's a phenomenal player, but the contract he's going to be getting paid on par with Nikola Jokic. He's not Nikola Jokic. Cat is an all-NBA caliber all-star player, but he's not that caliber of a player.
What's Jokic's contract right now?
Super max, probably like $40 million, 45.
Cat's going to get paid the same as Jokic, the same as D Book. It's a super max deal.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why small market teams in the past have refused to pay that super max contract to players. The Hornets, they didn't do it for Kemba Walker because they knew that it was going to hinder their flexibility.
Yeah.
But now that the Wolves have two of those contracts in Rudy Gobert and Cat, it minimizes this flexibility a ton. And when you look at what the Jazz have right now in Walker Kessler is Rudy Gobert light. He's actually been better than Rudy Gobert this season in the minutes he's played. And there's this funny meme I saw on Twitter from Moneyball. It was a picture of the scout, telling the GM.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and he was saying, listen, I can get a player. Walker Kessler does exactly what Rudy Gobert does. Plus, they'll give us all these role players and these picks. And it's true. Walker Kessler this year, he's 5th in blocks. He's the only player in the top 10 averaging under 24 minutes per game in that category of blocks per game that he's top 10 in. And he blocks 40% of his shots that he contests, and players shoot 10% less than expected when guarded by him. And he's only playing 17 minutes per game. This guy was a shot blocking beast at Auburn. He does a lot of what Rudy Gobert does. And when you look at the two main staples of the deal, Walker Kessler and, in my opinion, Jared Vanderbilt. Jared Vanderbilt was the heart and soul of the Minnesota Timberwolves team. And losing him hurt a lot for the team chemistry. And Walker Kessler, right now, you can argue I'd rather have Walker and Jared on their deals than I'd Rudy Gobert. So just those two players.
The keywords are on their deal.
Yeah.
You're 100%.
So
That's
just
a fair assessment.
So just those two players, and then the Jazz are also getting 4 first-round picks. And Danny Ainge, as of recently, hasn't been hitting on the draft. But if Minnesota doesn't make the play-in this year and Utah gets a lottery pick from Minnesota, yeah, this deal is going to go down as an all-time bad deal.
I'm with you.
So, to your point of aging terribly, he has a point. This year, Cat is the 25th most paid player.
Mm-hmm.
Next year,
25th is not horrible.
Next year, he'll be 24. But
Okay.
in 2024, 2025, he will be the 8th paid player.
Okay.
That hurts.
All right.
Then in 2025, 2026, he will be the 8th paid player.
But
we keep going.
Are there going to be players that are eligible for contracts?
Jimmy
That's
Butler,
true.
Giannis,
You're gonna have
Rudy
people who-
Gobert.
Yeah, but
above
those
him.
won't kick in until
Only
like 2-3 years
only
down the line.
guys like Donovan Mitchell and Jason Tatum will probably get paid more than Cat.
How
at
much
that time.
longer is Gobert getting paid?
This is the last year. This will be the last year. 2026. He will get paid $46 million.
This is the last year?
2026.
Oh,
26.
until
Yeah,
2026.
he'll be
He will
getting
be
paid
getting
through
paid the
2026.
He will be the 11th highest
Jesus
paid player.
Christ.
So Cat is going to get paid through 2027 at an average of 50 to 60 million, and
And
Gobert's getting paid
he'll accept that
through
2028 deal.
2026 at an average of 40 million.
Yeah.
So you're paying 100 million to Rudy Gobert and Cat for the next.
It's hard
Yeah,
to build your
let's
franchise
just
around
be
those two
realistic.
guys.
Cat will
Not
take
going
that
to.
player option, so he's going to get paid through 2028,
Yeah.
$60 million.
60 mil.
Yeah, he
That's-
gets paid $60 million in
yes, that's
2028.
grimy.
He's not declining that.
No,
That's-
hell no. He'd have to be insane to do that. But that's just. It was honestly, once the deal happened, I was more concerned, not even thinking long term, but just in a playoff series, how this roster looks with Gobert, because that was one of his biggest knocks in Utah. And you're going to be trading 5-6 first round picks, paying him all this money. You don't even know in the most valuable moments, is he going to be out in the court? And now you come to realize that maybe you should have made this deal all along, giving up all of those draft picks, paying him all of this money. And I just don't think you're really going to want to build a roster around two bigs. I don't know if you thought you could build the championship roster with Gobert and Cat being your two highest paid players. Now, obviously, you have Ant, who's on a rookie deal, so he's not getting paid. I understand that, but you're just not flexible. You compare it to the Kemba Walker situation. I think that's a great example where losing the player is probably more beneficial and rather have that flexibility. Even though that player is great for Kemba, he was the heart and soul for the Hornets' entire franchise. Honestly, like probably the biggest player their franchise has ever had since
He's their leading scorer.
LaMelo. Yeah. Gobert, I guess similar, but obviously that bit more history there. But seeing him go, it was probably the best move for them turning into this full rebuild. But at least for the Timberwolves, it's not going to be the worst trade of all time because of that Nets deal. Shout out to them for that. But it's really going to go down as a missed opportunity for Minnesota more than anything, because you had the flexibility with young players while also having Cat in his prime and Anthony Edwards becoming a superstar. So it's a bad trade, but more than anything, you're just a huge missed opportunity to become, a really competitive team for years.
And I think what sucks is that Tim Connolly is the current GM of the Wolves, and he's the one who okayed this deal and wanted to make this deal in the first place. Tim Connolly was the Nuggets' former GM. He traded Rudy Gobert on draft night to the Jazz. He traded Donovan Mitchell on draft night to the Jazz. The reason why the Jazz had their core was because of Tim Connolly. And the Nuggets at one point had Jared Vanderbilt. Tim Connolly traded him to Minnesota.
Wasn't he hurt though? Vanderbilt, he was hurt when he first got there.
Yeah, but I don't think they never played him. He was never in the rotation. The Nuggets have a history of missing out on key role players and letting them walk. Malik Beasley's an example. Bull's a recent example. Vanderbilt's an example of it. They don't have the best history of that. And Tim Connolly, I think, deserves a lot of blame because I think he's the one that tried to accelerate this process. We see two teams in Memphis and Minnesota.
Yep.
One team in Memphis decided to be patient. We're going to let Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane, and all of our key young role players grow together, where Minnesota said, we're going to accelerate this process. We're going to trade for Rudy Gobert. We're going to give up Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, 4 first-round picks. And Memphis right now, they have saw this through, and they're now first in the conference, while Minnesota is in a play-in. And there's a lot of question marks about their future. D'Lo is an unrestricted free agent in the offseason. He hasn't fit the best with these players. Cat is on a Supermax deal, which is going to limit their flexibility. Anthony Edwards is outspoken and vocal. If he does not like something, if he feels like the direction of the team is not the best, he will be vocal about it. And Rudy Gobert has never been a player that demanded or got respect from his teammates.